Hey guys, how are y'all today?
Doing good.
I'm good.
Good. My name is Keith Kasarjan, and I work with the Bear Valley Bible Institute as the Director of International Studies. And today I'm talking with Aaron Gallagher of GBN and Matt Wallen of HTH, House to House, Heart to Heart. And hey guys, it's good to have you with us today. I'm going to give you just a minute to talk about the organization that you work with and what you're doing. And then we'll talk about how all three of us are actually cooperating together. Aaron, you want to start first?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for putting this together. It's good to see you guys. Most people watching aren't going to know how much interaction us three have on a day-to-day basis, really. But so I work at the Gospel Broadcasting Network. I've been here about 2 years, July of 2018. Don Blackwell hired me to come and basically to run, to do Instagram work full time. And so I do some other things here, but try to focus mainly on using social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, to really go out and reach people in the whole world with the gospel, and then try to facilitate taking those people that show an interest and saying, would you like to study the Bible? They say yes. They might be in Africa or, earlier today I was talking to somebody in a dangerous Muslim country. I don't even really want to say where. But you talk with those people, and then they want to study the Bible, and I can study with them over the phone or the internet, but the best thing is to get them connected with the local church. And so then I try to facilitate that, and you two have been the two guys that have connected me with people. And I just went through our emails this morning. Maybe I got a list of emails from countries, and it's been, just in our email in an hour, I've got like 30 countries. And I know
Wow.
There's a ton. I didn't have a chance to go through all of our text messages. So
That's crazy and exciting as well.
Really,
Matt, tell us about House to House.
Yeah, sure. So I've worked with House to House for about 15 years now. And what we do is pretty simple. We plant and water through the mail. So the great thing about mail is if you send it to someone, they have to hold it and they have to decide what to do with it. And so we do a new issue of House to House each month, which we customize on the front and back for the local church. So like when Bear Valley has used it, when South Haven has used it, we don't want the community knowing anything about us. It's all about the local church, like Aaron mentioned. And so each issue, we do a new one monthly, and we go out to around 2 million homes. And so we're just scattering seed far and wide. And we may get to this, but people are really responsive to it, taking to it, and we're constantly bombarded by needing to hook seekers up and churches up and that kind of thing. And so that's what I work with, what we do.
Yeah, and primarily domestic, of course, but I know that you have made an effort to even put some of these into the hands of people in other countries, even in some of the places where we have schools.
Yeah, we've worked with 93 foreign countries at this point.
Yeah, I know most recently in Lesotho. And so, a lot of good stuff going on at Bear Valley. We train preachers. That's what we do. And currently have 43 preacher training schools in 27 countries. Last year, the enrollment was nearly 900 around the world. And those students, the current Bear Valley students, while they're in school, last year baptized about 3,500 people, started like 60, 70 new congregations, went into some churches and restored either a church that had gone into apostasy or a completely denominational or man-made church, and restored them to the true New Testament pattern, because they're in places where that can be done. People are so honest and so willing to listen. One of our schools, they went out on a campaign, met a guy who was a pastor. He wanted to study with them. Typically in our culture, somebody will dig their heels in, but he wanted to study. They converted him. He said, please come preach to my church. And the last count, they baptized over 120 people in that church. So it's exciting stuff, but all three of us are involved in different works. But what I wanted to really focus on today was how that we can cooperate and how we are cooperating with each other. Because, so many times there's a lack of cooperation. I know government agencies face that, the FBI doesn't want to share anything with the CIA and things like that. But, we're all on the same page here, and we're on the same team. And it's been exciting to know. I thought that it might be interesting and even encouraging for brethren to hear how much good is going on around the world because of the efforts of these different organizations, how we're able to link up. For example, I'll just kick it off. an example from this week, Aaron, I think Aaron posted on Facebook, hey, I need to find somebody in this city in India. And I'd never heard of this. I was in India recently, but I've never heard of this place. It was such a long name. I actually copied and pasted it into Google, Aaron, and it shows up on the map. I'm like, that doesn't even look like it's in India. It was between Bangladesh and Burma, a section that I didn't know India even had. And I was like, I've got only one shot. It's a long shot, but it's the only shot I have. So I messaged our director in Myanmar, the director of the Bear Valley School there, and he not only knew where it was, he's been there 3 times and knows the local preacher. And so he and Aaron were able to connect with this person that Aaron had been studying with. And those kind of things just happen all the time. I just think a lot of folks don't really know about that. Matt, I imagine you have a lot of people domestically, especially, right, that respond to the House to House, Heart to Heart, and want tracts or information or studies.
Yeah, we do. I was talking with the secretary today to get some numbers, and she shared some pretty impressive stats, I think. So as far as Bible studies that we had requested, that has come straight to us. Right. Which we try to, everything in House to House, we push them to the local church, but people will search for the author's name, or they'll search just Google House to House. And so some of them come to us. So we had so far this year alone, I think we've had about 250 Bible study requests. Hey, we want to study the Bible, come directly to us, even though we do everything in our power to keep them away from us. So I would imagine that's probably 3%, 5%, something like that makes it through to us. And so you're talking thousands of study requests. And Deborah Rice, who I work with, it's her job. She's taking kind of this on, that when we get one, she finds a congregation, she talks to the person, gets them to agree to take the study before she marks them off her list. And so she basically, bless her heart, is overwhelmed hooking up people that want to study the Bible with people that will study the Bible with them. And so people could easily be like, well, I watch the news and I go to my local congregation, I don't see anything. But turn that off. Get hooked up with people like Keith and Aaron, and you'll be overwhelmed. We are. And so I think you just need to maybe change the source that you're going to and see some of this.
Yeah, and you're talking primarily domestic, right? These requests are Americans?
Yeah, most of them. Yeah, most of them are.
But I thought Americans don't care anymore.
Right.
Isn't that right? I mean, nobody's interested anymore. And I don't know. There's some grain of truth to that as well. I can't help but wonder sometimes if we've not told ourselves that, to sort of feel comfortable about not really even trying anymore. But obviously anybody who's doing what you're doing, you're trying, and the churches that are putting this out are trying. And, you know, when you sow the seed, a lot of good things happen. And Aaron, briefly tell us about what you do with your Instagram accounts, even before GBN. This is what caught GBN's attention, but this is super cool.
Yeah, so in about 2015, so 3 years before I came to GBN, I used to use Instagram to post pictures of my food, like every good Instagrammer. And then I would start seeing other people post like Bible verses and little devotionals. And most of them were not members of the church. They were teaching stuff like the sinner's prayer and all these things the New Testament doesn't teach. And so it kind of started bothering me. So I started trying to do devotionals and acquired a couple accounts that someone else was trying to get rid of because they didn't want to run them anymore. And so about 2015 to 2018, I was doing that while working my secular job in the biotech field. And then Don at GBN Blackwell said, you should do this full time. So I said, well, is this a job offer? And he said, yes. And so since 2018, I've been doing it full time, you know, every day, all day. But really, you know, there's a lot of people with Instagram specifically. It goes, you don't really have a region. Like our top 3 cities, and maybe it's, one of them is New York, one of them is in Indonesia, Jakarta, and one of them is Lagos, Nigeria. I don't know why those are the top 3 that people that follow us, why those big cities, maybe because they're huge areas. But, you know, basically with Instagram, we'll just go live, post Bible studies, do live question and answers. Well, people will say, I'll always say, if you want to be baptized, send me a message. I'll get messages from people like you said, in India. In maybe the last 2 weeks, I had someone from Lagos, outside of Lagos, a guy named Israel, who said, I want to be baptized. Well, I don't know anybody in Lagos. So I text or call or email Keith and say, who do you have? He connects me with the preaching school there. They went and studied with Israel and baptized him. Same thing with Matt. I mean, there are sometimes I can think of baptisms that somebody in all of these, at Los Angeles, Chance, Atlanta, a few different people, Virginia outside of DC, And then some over even like in England, up in Canada, a couple where I've texted Matt, and he's given me a church. I connect them, and they study with them and baptize them. So it's like the church is global and it's connected. And if you meet somebody on social media, they can live literally in Africa, anywhere, any other than Antarctica, every single continent. You two have connected me with somebody who's obeyed the gospel. So we'll get somebody on Antarctica one of these days in like a deep freeze research lab or something. But
yeah, and I bet Matt has contacts or contact info for places in the U.S. that most Americans didn't know existed, just like this place in India. And so it's good that we have this technology that allows us to connect, and then the desire to cooperate and be able to follow up. I remember some time back, Aaron sent me one about a guy somewhere in Zimbabwe. I looked it up and was like, been to Zimbabwe a bunch of times, but I've never even heard of this place, but I'll try. So I sent a message to our two directors. We have two schools there. And one of them said, not only do I know where that is, one of our recent graduates is the preacher there now. And within what was one day, he sent us pictures of him baptizing that man that Aaron had first connected with. Man, I have chicken skin now just talking about this. It never gets old. And it's just exciting. And the technology allows that. Aaron, has the lockdown, the quarantine situation, have you noticed an uptick in online traffic?
We've since the quarantine started in February or March.
I think it was 5 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, so it feels like. I can think of at least 10 people off the top of my head who had basically done either a Facebook video or an Instagram video or post that contacted us. And I came to you two and said, you guys are, I'll post in the Sound Congregation Finder normally because I feel like bad that I'm always bugging you guys. But Matt, it's like, if Matt's texting late at night, his wife knows that it's me, because.
And let me interrupt you for a second. So I try to be intentional about not keeping my phone on me once I get off work.
Yeah.
I've started that recently and I'm good about it. But sometimes if it's you, I always text you and they'll say, well, what are you doing on your phone? I'm like, hey, it's Aaron. They're like, oh, is he going to baptize somebody? I was like, well, let's see. So every time you send me a picture, I show them and my kids are like, yay. So the follow-up you do, it makes it possible and it really encourages my family. So
it's like 1 Corinthians 3:6, Paul planted, Apollos watered, God gives the increase. And it's kind of exciting to think. There's sometimes I wish I could talk to the Lord for 10 minutes and be like, was this your providence? Because I don't have any other way to know. It's like Paul or Mordecai, who knows, or Paul perhaps. But it's just so neat. And it makes it exciting to think how everybody is doing work, even if, like you're saying, you don't see it publicly. Because it's kind of an awkward thing. You don't want to talk about what you're doing, but you want people to be encouraged by it. Yeah. And with these local congregations and, domestically in the U.S. and in Africa, it's awesome because you guys will give me somebody, I'll connect the person with them, and then they're on it. And I remember another one in Indonesia. I don't remember which one of you guys connected me. I don't know. But there was a guy who lived in this tiny village, and within 24 hours, the same thing in Africa, the guy on Instagram is sending me pictures of the preacher who he's there studying with, and he's baptized. And so it's just amazing that this is, 7,000 miles away in Doha, Qatar, 2 people were baptized. It's just like that. The signal can go to space and bounce down on the other side of the world, and people can be connected and obey the gospel. I think it's awesome to get to be a part of it,
Yeah. And I can tell you that's an easier way to travel. Yeah. It's going to take you a lot longer than that to get to Doha. Yeah. And so, you're using an opportunity. And I think that's something that all of us to be more soul conscious. What average church member thinks of Instagram as a means of filling heaven up? I've jokingly told Aaron that heaven is going to have a lot more people in it because of his thumbs. There are so many opportunities we have. You've got the mail with House to House. You've got people who want to know, and with Matt, with this database of all of these congregations, we know a lot of folks. We're almost 2 or 3 degrees of separation away from knowing somebody who knows somebody.
Anywhere in the world. I literally between you two, and literally I can think of every person's ever contacted me through Instagram within either you two knowing a preaching school or a person or someone they know, 2 or 3 degrees separated. I've had somebody that's been in a location with somebody like within 2 days. I mean, it's pretty wild, you know?
Yeah. That's great. It's exciting. And, and what it really encourages me is the example of people who care. And then the ones who just follow up, we'll email someone and they'll say, yeah, give me his number right now. I'm going to go. And then they go. There's no, it's kind of a bad time and I hadn't really planned on doing that. They go. And that's a great example of an encouragement to me. But then the cooperation that we all enjoy is encouraging as well. The old saying, there's no competition between lighthouses, but truth is sometimes that's not really been the case in reality. But I can assure you that's the way it is here with these three organizations and with others as well. And so I just thought it would be encouraging to our brethren to share what's going on and maybe even spur an idea or two of how all of us can be more soul conscious. I'm just going to back up. You didn't mention this one, Aaron, but I know because you told me when you were still in medical sales, you actually bought with your own money 3 Instagram accounts for the purpose of doing Bible studies. So what if everybody just started thinking, what can I do? What's my sphere of influence? What do I have? And started doing that for eternal purposes rather than posting food or selfies. Social media is all about self. But what if we flip that and think, it can even be used for eternal purposes? And same with what's going on house to house, heart to heart as well. Y'all have anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
Well, you just never know. I was going to say this about house to house. Here in South Haven, Olive Branch, where I'm at right now, I met these 2 Mormon guys, and they were just riding their bikes down the road, and I pulled over and said, hey, let's talk. And I asked them what they knew about the Church of Christ, and the first thing they said is the only thing we know about the Church of Christ is we get house to house in our mailbox at the apartment complex they were living in here in Olive Branch. So I'm assuming it's the Olive Branch Church of Christ who had been putting it out. And so it's like, you don't realize how far that something like that is reaching. And when you put it all together, the preaching schools, the online social media stuff, the mailing, like when congregations try to take advantage of all that, you really can reach. I mean, Jesus said, go into the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And we say, well, can we really do that? Yeah, we can. God wouldn't have told us to if we couldn't do it. And so with all the different resources we have, we can reach people, and so we should take advantage of them.
Agreed. Matt?
I was going to talk about what you said about people's interests and how some people might not see that. It's tough for us, and I know Apologetics Press has the same issue, is that your email lists and your Facebook page is divided between Christians and non-Christians. So we don't want to invite non-Christians to participate in things that are for us, but we also don't want to fail to encourage people with things that are, so it's a tough balance for us.
Yeah.
But we had 210 conversions reported back last year, and from the mailings themselves. And then we were on pace for 1 a day until COVID hit. And we still had a ton. Last week, even just Jacksonville had 4 that were originally from house to house contacts. One couple had been getting house to house for 20 years from us. And they were really displeased with how their denomination was acting and some of the doctrines they were starting to teach. And so they said, well, we need to go somewhere else. Where are we going to go? Well, this church has been reaching us for 20 years. Let's go and visit with them and study with them. And they became Christians. And every time I go somewhere, I'll hear a new story like Aaron just mentioned. And they'll say, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you. I want you to meet this person, something like that. And so I think we probably only get maybe less than 10% of the conversions reported back. And so if it was just that 10% and that was it, we literally could have posted a new baptism every day to encourage people. And you think about that, that's just us and our small, we're doing so little in comparison to what's being done. We think sometimes like, maybe we're the only ones that care. We're the only ones doing anything. No, we're doing a lot and we're doing a small percentage, and you guys are doing more in some ways and in some areas. And cumulatively, it would overwhelm you. I think people would honestly probably get even tired of looking at them all if they had to see them all. And that's just to say, people want the truth. We can take it to them, and we can be nice and kind and helpful in the way that we do it.
Yeah. In fact, that's the only way to do it. And then if we broaden it globally, for example, Bear Valley students, while they are in school, we can't keep up with the graduates. There are now so many graduates, but in the last 5 years, current students while they were in school have baptized over 15,000. And so, I mean, there's a lot of good news out there. And when people say, "Oh, the church just isn't growing anymore," first of all, I know it's an American because they have this skewed idea. But the church is global, and so is the technology that we now have. It's global as well, and so we're able to leverage that for eternity's sake. And that's really a good thing to do with it. So I appreciate both of you guys. Appreciate the organizations you work with, and for the good that you're making. All the progress that's being made for eternity by what you're doing every single day. So I appreciate you. Appreciate you taking a few minutes to tell us about what's going on in your works.
I appreciate you guys, because there's a list of people that I keep in the front cover of my Bible every time it's one that it's converted. And I look down through that list sometimes, and I mean, every single one of them, you guys have pretty much been involved with, because very rarely do I know somebody if it's in Kenya, where I've done mission work a little bit with the Bear Valley School there in Kisumu and K-Stop, maybe, but majority of the time, I don't know how to get a hold of somebody in Harare, Zimbabwe, or Namibia. I mean, these are countries, just from looking at our emails in the last few weeks: Keith, Ghana, Tema, Ghana, Cairo, Egypt, Algeria, Accra, Ghana, Harare, Zimbabwe, Freetown, Sierra Leone, Lagos, Nigeria. And Matt, I got London, Birmingham, UK, India, Iceland, Namibia, Marseille, France, Montreal, and then of course, like almost every state in the US. I mean, so it's like, if somebody watching meets somebody that's in the middle of Africa, or, like Pakistan, we have contacts there. Even in some of the places you think, well, you can't get the gospel to that. Yeah, we can. I mean, you can get it. And we know people there, even if it's a sort of a secretive thing because of how dangerous it is. But you can get the gospel to anybody. And
so we might not know a guy, but we might know a guy who knows a guy. We'll get it done. All right, guys, appreciate it. You have a great rest of the day. Take care.
Thanks.
God bless. Bye.